Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pacharya Nirvishesha Shunyabhati Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Astotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande.
Hari Haribol. Thank you so much, Panchatattva Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And welcome everyone for Sri Caitanya Caritamrta with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Thursday, August 29th, 2024 in New York. And tonight or this morning, depending where you are, we're starting with Adi-lila, chapter 9, text number 44. And the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mali Manushya Amara Nahi Rajyadan Pala pula diya kari punya uparjana. I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Purport: in performing welfare activities for human society, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself as being not very rich, thus indicating that a man need not be rich or opulent to act for the welfare of humanity. Sometimes rich men are very proud that they can perform beneficial activities for human society, whereas others cannot. A practical example is that when there is a scarcity of food in India on account of meager rainfall, some members of the richer class very proudly distribute foodstuffs, making huge arrangements with the help of the government, as if merely by such activities people will be benefited. Suppose there were no food rains. How would the rich men distribute food? Production of grain is completely in the hands of God. If there were no rain, there would be no grain, and these so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grain to the people. The real purpose of life, therefore, is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Rupa Goswami describes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that devotional service is so exalted that it is beneficial and auspicious for every man. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also declared that to propagate the bhakti cult of devotional service in human society, one does not need to be very rich. Anyone who knows the art can do it and thus render the highest benefit to humanity. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the part of a gardener because although a gardener is naturally not a very rich man, he has some fruits and flowers. Any man can collect some fruits and flowers and satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service, as the Lord recommends in the Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patrang pushpang tvalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachchati tadahang bhaktyuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. One can satisfy the Supreme Lord by his riches, wealth, or opulent position. One cannot satisfy the Supreme Lord by his riches, wealth, or opulent position, but anyone can collect a little fruit or a flower and offer it to the Lord. The Lord says that if one brings such an offering in devotion, he will accept it and eat it. When Krishna eats, the entire world becomes satisfied. There is a story in the Mahabharata illustrating how by Krishna's eating, the 60,000 disciples of Durvasa Muni were all satisfied. Therefore, it is a fact that if by our life, pranahi, by our wealth, artai, by our intelligence, dhiya, or by our words, vacha, we can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally the entire world will become happy. Therefore, our main duty is to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by our actions, our money, and our words. This is very simple. Even if one does not have money, he can preach the Hare Krishna mantra to everyone. One can go everywhere to every home and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I found it very charming how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself so humbly here. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. And for most of the purport, Prabhupada makes the strong point from many different angles that wealth is not a requirement for worshiping the Lord, nor is it a requirement for spreading good fortune to others, as is thought by some people that he mentions. But the real qualification is, of course, love of Godhead. If you have that, no matter what your social status, your financial position, then you can actually do good to yourself and to others. Yeah, I like that very strong conclusion that he makes here. If there were no rain, there would be no grain, and these so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grain to the people. Hare Krishna. And at the end, he has that statement here. One can go everywhere to every home and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. And that would certainly be a project. Maharaj, we're so happy to see you. I hope you are willing to say something on this verse.
Well, Panchatattva Prabhu has his hand up.
I will wait, Gurudev. Please go ahead. All right. Oddly enough, the person that came to mind as I was hearing this purport was George Harrison, of all people. He was his real vocation, according to his own account, was as a gardener. He loved gardening. He knew all about the various plants. When people would come and visit his estate, he would show them different things that he was growing. His son, Donnie Harrison, according to Donnie's own account, didn't find out that George was in the Beatles until he was in elementary school. And kids were teasing him and running around him singing Yellow Submarine. And he came home and basically, chided his father. Why didn't you tell me you were in this Beatles? So George, in his own, at heart, of course, he's an interesting person. He was very wealthy, but that was obviously not where his heart lay. It lay in gardening, and it was just an interesting thought. Maybe only remotely related to what's being described here, but certainly in keeping with the idea of that that Krishna consciousness is for those who want to give as well. So, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shabadatikam. Well, first Praveen has a comment. Kolavetra Sritar, it would earn meager and yet donate some for the worship of Ganga. Yes, so Prabhupada's point, it doesn't matter whether we're wealthy or we're not wealthy, but everyone can distribute Krishna consciousness. This is Krishna's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prasadam distribution program. The prasadam distributed is in the form of fruits of love for Krishna, and he asks everyone to help him distribute. Holy Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Tulsi Priya has a comment and question in the chat also. She quotes from the purport, one can go everywhere to every home and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. And then she says, I have skepticism about, quote, the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful part. I'm sure the world could improve a great deal by devotees preaching, but will it actually happen for the whole world? How do I overcome this doubt?
Well, Gaudiya Math was doubting that Prithiviti Atache Nagaradi Gram, how would this go beyond India? This is some sort of metaphorical statement, or anyway, it's there, that's all. But now it's happened. So the entire world is possible. Otherwise, all right, at least whatever portion we can affect.
Thank you, Maharaj. And Saraswati Mata says, Pranams, Param Puji Maharaj, and all the Vaishnavas. The statement that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ji makes here about distributing fruits and flowers, which represents preaching his message and teachings, to utilize these for achieving piety. I thought one should never do bhakti for accumulating any sort of piety, but the only motive is for satisfying Krishna. And she quotes Bhagavad Gita 1869, Nacha tasman manusyeshu kaschin me priya kritamaha, bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priya taro bhuvi. There's no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there be one more dear. So we know the preacher is most dear to Krishna.
There's no question there, is there?
Well, just going back a little bit, her comment was sort of in halves. And the first half was that I thought one should never do bhakti for accumulating any sort of piety, but the only motive is for satisfying Krishna. This is in response to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's own statement that he wishes to utilize to achieve piety in my life.
Well, as you said, Akendra Prabhu, it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's humility. I'm just trying to get a little pious credit here.
Hare Krishna. Panchatattva Prabhu comments, how could someone like myself ever come to the point of chanting Hare Krishna? That in itself is a miracle. Surely it can happen on a large scale.
Hare Krishna.
All right. And Tulsi Priya says, thank you, Maharaj. And also she says, I took it that Mahaprabhu was being self-deprecating. Quote, I'm only a gardener trying to get piety.
Yes.
So Panchatattva Prabhu, would you like to read our next verse?
Yeah. Malihaya Vriksha Hailan E Touch Ichate Sava Pranir Upakar Hoi Vriksha Hoite. Although I am acting as a gardener, I also want to be the tree, for thus I can bestow benefit upon all. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most benevolent personality in human society because his only desire is to make people happy. His Sankirtan movement is especially meant for the purpose of making people happy. He wanted to become the tree himself because a tree is said to be the most benevolent living entity. In the following verse, which is from Srimad-Bhagavatam 10:22-33, Krishna himself highly praises the existence of a tree. Om Jnana Timaranda Shagananya Salakaya Chakshomani Tam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaur Atrise Namaha. The Lord is so magnanimous. He's freely giving love of God. And he's giving it through the chanting of the Lord's holy name. this part of the 10th canto, which is being referenced here. I was looking at it. I won't preempt that verse, but there's a related verse, a few verses on, where Lord Chaitanya this is in from 10th canto, also covered, of course, in Krishna book. It's after the stealing of the garments of the gopis, and now Krishna is with his cowherd friends, and he's appreciating the beauty of Vrindavan and the generosity of the trees, and he applies that appreciation to the appreciation and requirement of living entities to perform welfare activities. Etavas janma safalyam dehinami hadehishu pranay aitar diavacha shriya acharanam sada. It's the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. So just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is performing this supreme welfare activity, he's requesting this of his followers and of every human being. Do what is most beneficial to others. And the example of a tree is so appropriate because there's no protest from the tree when you take its fruits. There's not even protest from the tree when it's being cut for wood and so forth. And of course, it brings to mind the famous Shikshastrika prayer. That along with that generosity of spirit is humility. Humility in following and determination for being a benefit to others. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu Maharaj. Would you like to comment?
I don't think I need to add anything here.
Tulsi Priya mentions here, I'm struck by the fact that a very sinful human being can take birth as a tree, but as a tree, that living entity is considered pious and does so much good for others.
Yeah. Different angles of vision. From one point of view, every living being in the material world is sinful. And from another point of view, some are pious, some are impious, even among the trees, pious and impious. And again, it's our angle of vision. From one angle of vision, to become a tree, you have to be very sinful. From another point of view, a saintly person will see merit everywhere. Some good thing, some good quality. And yes, Hare
Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata says, there was a well-known song in Hindi that talks of a child represented as a flower that was so lovingly tended to by the father like a gardener, but the flower became mesmerized by an intruder and willingly went with the intruder and lost all protection and real love. That flower wants the gardener to know how much guilt and regrets he has and wants to come back to the gardener. Tulsi Priya, would you like to read our next text?
Is that text 46?
Yes.
Okay. Aho esham varam janma sarva pranyupajivinam sujana seva yesham vai vimukhayanti narthina. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities. For anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, Kshatriyas are considered to be great personalities because if anyone goes to a Kshatriya king to ask for charity, the king will never refuse. The trees are compared to those noble Kshatriyas because everyone derives all kinds of benefits from them. Some people take fruit, others take flowers, others take leaves, others take twigs, and others even cut the tree, and yet the tree gives to everyone without hesitation. Unnecessarily cutting trees without consideration is another example of human debauchery. The paper industry cuts many hundreds and thousands of trees for its mills, and with the paper, so much rubbish literature is published for the whimsical satisfaction of human society. Unfortunately, although these industrialists are now happy in this life by dint of their industrial development, they do not know that they will incur the responsibility for killing these living entities who are in the form of trees. This verse, quoted from Srimad-Bhagavatam, was spoken by Lord Krishna to his friends when he was taking rest underneath a tree after his pastime of stealing clothes of the gopis, Adi-lila. By quoting this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that we should be tolerant like trees and also beneficial like trees, which give everything to the needy persons who come underneath them. A needy person may derive many advantages from trees and also from many animals, but in modern civilization, people have become so ungrateful that they exploit the trees and animals and kill them. These are some of the sinful activities of modern civilization. So, Om Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yenama Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, there are so many things that this reminds me of that Prabhupada has spoken about, working backwards from the bottom. Says that needy people can take so many advantages from trees and from animals. And Prabhupada has said that real wealth is land and cows. So you have a whole economic system right there based on cultivating the land and taking benefits from the cow and the bull. So those are the most important animals, the cow and the bull. But they help us to cultivate the land also, as well as give milk. And then working backwards again, he talks about the paper industry. It seems like an extra insult that a tree should lose its life just to publish a magazine or a newspaper that's full of nonsense. It's one thing if you cut down a tree to build a home or to make furniture or to make tools or something like that. But when you cut down a tree for something that's going to be thrown away within a week, it seems like just the utmost insult to the tree, on top of the injury done by cutting it. And back to the first paragraph, great personalities. Yeah, we see that a lot. We will forgive a lot in a person if they're magnanimous and generous. They may not be perfect people. They may not be totally in the mode of goodness, but when they're generous, we overlook all these flaws. So even if trees are sinful living entities, and that's why they're trees, because they're so magnanimous, we consider them pious and wonderful personalities. And it makes me think of, like, in prison, sometimes somebody will do a horrible crime and go to prison, and then when they're in prison, they decide to, by force, they're forced to, maybe they start taking classes or whatever, and they go to law school in prison, they start helping the other prisoners who are unjustly, so it's a sinful person in prison. It's a criminal, but they somehow are, by the force of this, by force of circumstance, by the situation that they're in, they become good people. So that's how I think of trees, that they're prisoners and they're doing their time, and they make the most of their imprisonment. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Maharaj, please, any comments?
You're muted, Maharaj.
How wonderful. Aho Esham Param Janma. It's an exclamation. How wonderful. How great are these trees. Sarva Prani Upajivinam. They're providing for all the living beings who who have life. Well, it's tautology, but for providing for all living beings. Sujanasyaiva yeshamvad, like great men, noble men, who never turn anyone away. I don't think I need to add more.
Panchatattva Prabhu comments here. King Jarasandha was a very dutiful householder, and he had great respect for the Brahmanas. He was a great fighter, a Kshatriya king, but he was never neglectful of the Vedic injunctions. According to Vedic injunctions, the Brahmanas are considered to be the spiritual masters of all other castes. Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhimasen were actually Kshatriyas, but they dressed themselves as Brahmanas. And at the time when King Jarasandha was to give charity to the Brahmanas and receive them as guests, they approached him. This is Srila Prabhupada.
I'm reminded also of a famous incident in Dallas where devotees had lopped off the big limbs of a tree, and Prabhupada was furious. And devotees said that the limb was threatening the temple, it could collapse on the temple. Prabhupada wouldn't hear it. He was furious. So it comes to my mind that Vedic culture involves being awake to these things, seeing the piety of the tree, seeing what's pleasing to Krishna, what's not pleasing to Krishna, what's dharmic, what's against dharma. And when we don't see these things, it means we're affected by especially ignorance, the mode of ignorance. We just don't get it. It's right in front of us and we don't see it. These great industrialists, they're committing sinful activities, but they can't see it. We're making a profit, that's all. So passion, ignorance, and they lose their mercy, mercilessly cutting down trees and doing many other things. I mean, the viciousness of modern businesses, especially corporations, is legendary. And but it goes on because how many would be willing to say, all right, I'll do this and I'll go to hell for it and suffer for millions of years. I'll become a dog, I'll become this or that, but let me make money. They're just foolish and ignorant. They don't consider, or they don't even know what the consequences will be of what they're doing. So, Tasmat Shastra Pramanante. We may think that we're doing something good, something beneficial. Yes, I'm providing newspapers to enlighten the people of the world, or to provide a basis for democracy, or to feed my family, or whatever reason we want to give. But we're not conscious that we're disobeying the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that we're acting contrary to Dharma. We think that some good will come of it, but we don't know because we're not Krishna conscious. If the world becomes Krishna conscious, they'll be afraid to do such things, or they won't want to do such things. They'll want to do something genuinely good for human society. So that's all included when one becomes Krishna conscious, or when we spread the Krishna consciousness movement.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata has a question here. I read that one should never drink tree sap. So in Canada, maple syrup is very popular. So taking this part of a tree is sinful?
Well, it's mentioned there in Bhagavatam in regard to Indra taking on or distributing the sinful reactions he incurred for killing a Brahmin, Vishrup. So yes, then it's said that one portion was distributed to the trees, which on account of that, accepting that sinful reaction, they have this undrinkable sap. So it's there, but I won't comment on the application. We see that, yeah, I will comment on the application.
Hare Krishna. Tulsi Priya, you have a hand up? You need to unmute.
One other benefit of trees that I've been thinking about lately is that we're talking about disease. One doctor who's actually quite a pious man, he's a Seventh-day Adventist, and he's been doing videos about COVID since the beginning of the pandemic. And he preaches the benefits of sunlight, and specifically with regards to disease, it's the infrared rays from sunlight that help heal disease. But he also says that trees reflect a lot of infrared. So to improve your health and to help heal you from disease, if you go and spend time among trees, you get that benefit of the infrared radiation, and it helps health. And I just thought I'd share that. Hare Krishna. So Vanaprastha for all. To the forest.
Thank you. Thank you. Murai Gupta Prabhu comments here. Being considerate towards trees gives a whole other level to woke.
Yeah, everyone is periodically gets all righteous about equality and so on, while they're busy killing animals, killing trees, and so on.
Thank you, Murai Gupta Prabhu. Venkatesh Prabhu, good to see you. Would you like to read our next verse?
Yes, I can. So, which is that verse number? I would like to confirm.
Yes. I have too many windows open, sorry.
47?
Yeah, that would be text number 47. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, text 47. Hey Ajna Kailaya Chaitanya Malakara Padma Parama Ananda Paila Vriksha Parivara. Translation: the descendants of the tree, the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were very glad to receive this order directly from the Lord. Purport. It is the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the benevolent activities of the Sankirtan movement, which was inaugurated 500 years ago in Navadvip, be spread all over the world for the benefit of all human beings. Unfortunately, there are many so-called followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are satisfied simply to construct a temple, make a show of the deities, collect some funds and utilize them for eating and sleeping. There is no question of their preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. But even though they are unable to do so, if anyone else does it, they become envious. This is the condition of the modern followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The age of Kali is so strong that it affects even the so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya. At least the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must come out of India to preach his cult all over the world. For this is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. The followers of Lord Chaitanya must execute his will with heart and soul, being more tolerant than the trees and humbler than the straw in the street. So, it's amazing that Prabhupada is writing his feelings here in this purport. So he mentions that the Sankirtan movement was inaugurated 500 years ago in Navadvip. I'm right now here in Navadvip, Mayapur. So from here, he wanted it to be spread all over the world. So, so Prabhupada is expressing his concern that there are so-called followers of Mahaprabhu who simply construct a temple, make a show of deities, and collect some funds and utilize them for eating and sleeping. So from this, we can see that Prabhupada didn't want that ISKCON to be some kind of free hotel. So he wanted that we should be going out. So I was reading this book actually since a few days. This is Ahindra Prabhu's Kirtan Revolution book. So in that he mentions how in initial days there was Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution going side by side, and Prabhupada wanted it to be like that. Holy name and the book distribution support each other and like that. So that was nice to hear that from Ahindra Prabhu. And further, yes, age of Kali is so strong that it affects even the so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya. So here we see that generally it's the demonic people who oppose or rather don't do any preaching or they don't follow the orders of Lord Chaitanya. Or even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that you can be very dear to me by preaching this message to others. So, like those who don't care for Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna, so then they may just do their own things. But if so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya also don't follow it, then it's a huge duplicity. So maybe there's a better way to better word for it. So, anyways, he wanted that the followers of Lord Chaitanya must come out of India to preach his cult all over the world. So Mahaprabhu mentions in one of his teachings that Bharata Bhumite Janma Hoilaya Janma Sadhak Vari Paropakara. So one must perfect one's own life and preach the cult of this Sankirtan movement throughout the world. And it's not just some kind of duty, but rather he's saying that the followers of Lord Chaitanya must execute his will with heart and soul, being more tolerant than the trees and humbler than the straw in the street. So when we try to preach the message, definitely there will be all kinds of obstacles, and one must be humbler than the tree, humbler than the straw in the street, and more tolerant than the trees. So I would request Maharaj can add some more points.
Well, it's wonderful, first of all, to see how strongly Srila Prabhupada is making this point about the need to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement and how strongly he was speaking to his contemporaries about the need to execute Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. And Srila Prabhupada certainly had the right to speak so strongly because he had actually done it. So we should pick up that spirit from Srila Prabhupada and be strong in spreading Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, strong, enthusiastic in spreading Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. A further thought is that as history has developed, now there are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are coming out of India to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And it will be of interest, how will the followers of Srila Prabhupada respond to that? Prabhupada has urged those followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, come out of India and preach. Now, if they do it, will we be sorry? Will we oppose them in some way or try to, limit or keep them down? Or will we find ways to cooperate with them how will the followers of Srila Prabhupada respond? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Panchatattva Prabhu in the chat gives us a quote from a purport to third canto, chapter 21. It is stated here that Bindu Sarovara was surrounded by pious trees and birds. As there are different classes of men in human society, some pious and virtuous and some impious and sinful, so also among trees and birds there are the pious and the impious. Trees which do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious, and birds which are very nasty, such as crows, are considered impious. In the land surrounding Bindu Sarovara, there was not a single impious bird or tree. Every tree bore fruits and flowers, and every bird sang the glories of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu. Let's see. My next verse is text 48.
Saraswati has another comment.
Oh, yes. She says, this envy can trap even followers of Mahaprabhuji, as stated here. It brings to mind this interview. It brings to mind this interview where a birth mother gave up her child for adoption due to the extreme violent situation she was in for the child's safety and future. The mother was forever grateful to all those that gave love to her child, and emphatically stated that she would never be envious of those caring people because they served and loved the child when she could not do this. Similarly, we should be grateful to all those Vaishnavas serving Krishna that are dear to Krishna when we cannot do anything. Thank you very much. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, after seeing some Indian preachers becoming victims of the West, the remaining preachers are thinking twice to go out of India.
One has to see what his strength is. Those who have strength can travel all over the world, as Srila Prabhupada did.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. We have a little bit of time left, and our next verse is the purport is not so very long. Let's see. Hare Krishna. Saraswati Ma, would you like to read our last verse tonight, text number 48? Is that possible?
Just another thought that those who are not strong should become strong. Not that, well, I'm not strong, so that's just how it is. But if we're not strong, we should become strong, and then go out and do something.
Right. Panchatattva Prabhu, are you able to read our text number 48?
Sure. Ye yaha taha dan kare prema phal phalasvade mataloka ailasakal. The fruit of love of God is so delicious that wherever a devotee distributes it, those who relish the fruit anywhere in the world immediately become intoxicated. Purport. Here, the wonderful fruit of love of Godhead distributed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. We have practical experience that anyone who accepts this fruit and sincerely tastes it immediately becomes mad after it and gives up all his bad habits. being intoxicated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The statements of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta are so practical that anyone can test them. As far as we are concerned, we are most confident of the success of the distribution of the great fruit of love of Godhead through the medium of chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Wonderful, wonderful fruit of love of Godhead. So this fruit is so amazing that by tasting it, and Prabhupada makes a slight qualification here, sincerely tasting it, one immediately becomes mad after it and gives up all his bad habits, being intoxicated. So this is a positive definition of intoxication. There's intoxication of one sort, and then there's this transcendental intoxication, a feeling of great love and affection that a person experiences by tasting the holy name of Krishna. And Prabhupada goes on to express his confidence because of the nature of this fruit that's being distributed from this tree, that there will be success in the distribution of this great fruit of love of Godhead through the medium of this chanting of the Mahamantra. Therefore, there are many examples of Prabhupada exhorting his disciples to go out on the streets and chant. And this book distribution is also a form of chanting. Here we have the Mahamantra again. How many times Srila Prabhupada has quoted the Mahamantra, whether in part or in full, throughout his books? Emphasizing the distribution of the holy name of the Lord. And as long as the trees that distribute are pious trees, transcendentally pious trees, distributing this fruit, then there's every success. I once read some time ago this exchange between Prabhupada and some disciple who was expressing some concern about persons who aren't directly connected with our movement, who are chanting Hare Krishna. And he was pointing out, he's kind of thinking, you could tell he's thinking along the lines of, well, milk touched by a serpent has poisonous effects. I have to find that particular passage. And Prabhupada was saying, well, are they imitating us? And the disciple was saying, yes. He said, well, then that's all right. The holy name of the Lord is being spread in this way. So, but still, we have to be mindful that we want to actually contribute in some small or large way to Srila Prabhupada's desire and his confidence that this holy name be successfully distributed and that people become ecstatic and indeed intoxicated by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, intoxicated by love of God, that we be diligent in our own practice of devotional service to be of real benefit towards others, rather than thorny trees which produce no fruit and are merely like jungle trees. I was reading somewhere else where Prabhupada's talking about all they're good for is fuel, that we produce some fruits and flowers of benefit in the form of prasadam and the chanting of the holy names and the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's literatures, and those literatures in pursuance of Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhu, thank you so much. Maharaj, some comments?
No.
Tulsi Priya has a comment here. Srila Prabhupada's confidence is the antidote to my skepticism. I just have to associate with him more in his books to catch it.
One thought is how wonderful it must have been for Srila Prabhupada to see the unfolding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Prabhupada had begun with nothing, and by within a few years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement spread all over the world. So how wonderful it must have been for Srila Prabhupada to see his confidence fulfilled.
Yeah, just to underscore what you're saying, Maharaj, on Vyasa Puja Day, we were hearing a homage by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu where he was quoting Prabhupada's writing. I think he was writing to Sudama and expressing, just as you say, wonder at the success of his endeavor. And he said, "Now my dreams have all come true." And Murari Gupta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, would you like to give your thoughts on how we should react if those preaching Krishna consciousness outside of India have a lower standard than ISKCON, for example, 8 rounds of japa for initiation?
Well, it becomes complicated, of course. I said something fairly generic about the need to cooperate, or whether we have an interest in cooperating with Gaudiya Vaishnavas who come out from India. If you don't have an interest and you're just going to be, what's the word, isolationist, then that's one response. But if you're looking to cooperate or looking for possibilities of cooperation, then there's all sorts of, then it's a project. How do we cooperate? How do we accommodate differences like that? Or are we strong enough that we could influence others, that to follow Prabhupada's standard? That they're all right, there are other ways of doing it, but Prabhupada was the leader in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. Why not get on board and let's work together according to Prabhupada's standard? There may be those who will take interest that, all right, let's do that. So I don't want to be simplistic and just say, yes, we should all cooperate and hold hands and so on. But that's our vision, that we do want to cooperate, and we do, Prabhupada did, especially at the end of his life, want to see opportunities for cooperation. So it doesn't mean that we become, what's the word, blind or unsophisticated. There's a need to protect the Krishna consciousness movement, or Prabhupada's branch of the Krishna consciousness movement also. But if we're just always protective and to the point where we don't look beyond our borders, then we may be doing a disservice to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj. And we've reached our time, actually gone a little bit beyond, but time for Kirtan. I was going to see if Venkatesh Prabhu would like to lead us in Kirtan for a few minutes here.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatya Deshatadini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishvat Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtotra Shastri Shri Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishvat Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtotra Shastri Shri Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Antakoti Vaishnavan Ki Jai Ramacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Swam Sekha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Sham Kundu Radha Kundu Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shrindan Masala Dham Ki Jai Nadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samet Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai all Gurus assembled devotees, all Gurus assembled devotees, all Gurus assembled devotees, all Gurus, all Gurus, all Gurus, Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Jai Jai. Thank you so much, Venkatesh Prabhu. And thank you everyone for being here. Murray Gupta Prabhu says, thank you for your answer, Maharaj. It seems we will need some very level-headed people to negotiate the future successfully. Indeed. Thank you. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj and friends ki jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow for Srimad-Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.